Hey, this video is going to be for Hentor's. It's just about a little bit of maintenance, a few maintenance tips, and how to do a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to do is take the strings off. And since this is a floating bridge, I'm going to take this little pad of paper. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm going to stick it right back here, so that when we release the tension of the strings, the bridge will back up onto this little pad of paper and not gouge the paint here or anything like that. Okay, here we go. Take the strings off. And then loosen the knurled nut on the bottom. There's one. The other. And so on. Okay, so the strings are off. Now we're going to take a 3mm Allen wrench and remove the strings from the bridge saddles. Okay. Now we loosen off the bolts here and pull the string out. Okay, there goes the strings. Now you can see this little pad of paper is trapped right back here, so that's good. All right. Before we go any further, I'm going to show you how to de-static the pickguard and the electronics if there is a static problem. Sometimes there is. So the first thing we're going to do is remove all of the screws for the pickguard. Just the screws around the outside here. And we'll get a dryer sheet and apply that to the underside of the pickguard and to the paint on the guitar as well. So here we go. I like to use a hand screwdriver for this operation because I don't like to, well, first of all, I don't want to strip the holes by using like a screw gun. I might have too much torque. This is just a more precision way of doing it. A little more careful. Okay, so all the screws are out. Now we can lift the pickguard right out. As you can see. So under here, I have a dryer sheet. Just a regular dryer sheet from the grocery store, like Bounce or whatever. And I'm going to rub the underside of the pickguard all over. You can rub the pickups too if you want. But it's really the plastic, the pickguard plastic, that needs it. Here, in between the pots. And then also here on the paint. And give it a good rub down everywhere. And that's that. Now, the important thing is when you put the pickguard back on, that all the wires fall into their channels. Because if they don't, then you're going to get a lump under the pickguard. So, probably the one to really pay attention to is this wire that goes through this channel here. there's 2 wires, so make sure that they go in. And you can feel it if there's something trapped under there. So just adjust it as you have to. And we'll put the screws back on. And I'm going to show you how to adjust the action of the bridge if you need to raise it or lower it. Alright, so now if you want to raise or lower the action, you do it by turning these 2 pivot posts. But it's very important that you don't try and turn these pivot posts with the strings on up to tension. So what I like to do is I even like to take the springs off in the back just to make sure that there is no tension on the bridge riding up against those posts. Because what can happen is if you turn those screws and this bridge is riding on that knife edge, it could dull the knife edge, and then that will just ruin your tuning stability. So now, in order to turn that, I'm going to take a large flat screwdriver like this, something that fits really well into the slot in the head. You don't want a screwdriver that's too small, like this one, and it flops around in there. So now these screws are in really tight into the body wood. So you've got to be very careful. Like I say, take a big flat screwdriver like this, one that fits nice and snug into that slot, and really carefully turn. If you wanted to raise the action, you're going to turn it counterclockwise so that the screw will raise up. And I would say turn it maybe a quarter of a turn, and that will give you a significant, not a ton, but it's a good start for raising the action a bit. Turn it a quarter of a turn, and then this one too. You have to decide whether you want just the bass side up or the treble side up or both sides up. Okay, and then once you've turned those screws, then we're going to put the springs back in. Now when I turn the guitar over, I'm holding on to the bridge here so that the bridge doesn't fall off. And there we go, just putting it on its back like that. And we're going to install the springs back into the claw. Now sometimes the springs can be a little bit hard to get into the claw, so here's a little trick. You put the spring into the block first, and then take a small flat screwdriver, put it through the spring loop, and then into the claw. Try that again, I'll show it to you one more time. Spring into the block, slot screwdriver through the loop, and then up against the tab, and it slips right in. One more. Whoop. No, that one didn't work. There we go. And make sure that these springs are in all the way into the block. Okay, now let's turn it over, and we can just finish cleaning up any of the dust or fingerprints or whatever from the pickups to pickguard. Might as well take the chance now to clean up any dust or dirt on the bridge. I just use this little brush here. We get rid of all the dust that's in there. Be careful that you don't lose any of these little black anchor blocks in the saddles when you're turning the guitar upside down. They can fall out. If they do, make sure you orient them properly so that the hole for the bolt is facing the bolt end. All right. It's good. I'll put the rest of the screws back in the pickguard. All right, here's a little tip when screwing, when putting a screw in to the pickguard. Again, use a hand screwdriver, and what I do is I always hold the tip like this and screw it in. The reason for that is just so that I can stop it from slipping out and gouging the guitar. You know, that's a possibility, right? Always hold the screwdriver like that. And then just a little snug. Don't over tighten it. So since the strings are off, I'm going to take this time to clean the fretboard and the neck. And what I have here is a product known as Gorgamite. And this stuff was actually developed by Jim Johnson, who was Alex's guitar tech. Good friend of mine. Anyway, this stuff is great. Cleans up a fretboard, and the fret's all nice and shiny. Gets rid of any crud, and it's safe. Okay, there we go. I'll just wipe off that residue with a soft polishing cloth. Okay, and then one last thing is the Hentor neck is raw. There's no finish on the back of the maple. And so every now and then, not a bad idea to just give it a little bit of a wipe, a clean with some 3M Scotch-Brite pad. This is like synthetic, it's like synthetic steel wool. So there's not actually any steel in it. It's kind of a plastic. But just give it a good rub with some of this stuff. I use the gray pad. The different colors are different grits. I like the gray. So this makes your neck nice and smooth and silky again. And that's all it takes. Just like that. Oh, a little bit more there, let's say. Yeah, until it feels good. Feels good. Now we can put the strings back on it, string it, tune it up to pitch. All right, now for strings, unless otherwise specified, all Hentors were set up with D'Addario NYXL 10 to 46. And that's what we have here. So we're going to start with the low E string. And because of the design of this bridge, we need to cut the ball end off the string. So I just go up about an inch from the ball, cut it off, and now we take that 3mm wrench again. We're going to put the string right in between the little block, that little block, black anchor block, and kind of centered in the saddle. And then I'm going to tighten it just until it's snug. You don't want to over muscle it, because you can crack that little black block. So that should be enough. And now on this end, we're going to line up the hole on the tuner so that the hole is facing this way. I'm going to put it in like that, and we're going to pull the string tight. We don't want any winds around these posts. So now that the string is pulled tight, I'm going to lock it down with this little knurled lock nut down here on the bottom side of the tuner. And give it one little kink like that. And give it a little tension. Great. We can move on to the A string. Do the same thing for the next 5 strings. Cut the ball off. Insert it in between the block and the saddle. And with our 3mm wrench, tighten it down. Again, just snug. Like that, not too tight. And then on this end, once again, we go through the tuner hole, which is already lined up this way, straight across. I'm pulling the string tight and locking it down with the knurled knob underneath the tuner. Lock down, a little bit of a kink, and give it a little tension. Now that the strings are all installed, one last thing is to just trim them all. I cut them close so that yeah, you don't jab yourself in the finger or the hand or anything with the string end if it's sticking out too far. Okay, that's it. Now, the tension is still fairly loose. I haven't really tuned it up to pitch yet. But remember that there we have the this little pad of paper back here. And once we start to tune the guitar up, the bridge is going to let go of this pad of paper. So don't forget to pull this out. And that's it. Enjoy.